People always think the knife in the back comes from a stranger. A stupid thought. The real danger is the one sleeping next to you. Who knows exactly where you keep your wallet and exactly where to twist the blade? It is never the initial shock that kills you. It is the cold, calculated realization of how long they planned it. And that is where my story really begins. My name is Eliza Vance. I am 38 years old, and my world is built on rules. As a compliance officer for Viridian Dynamics, I am the one who audits the auditors, the one who checks the fine print so small it's designed to be missed. My life is a fortress of meticulous order. That morning, the fortress was under siege by the mundane chaos of LaGuardia. I was late. My flight to Chicago, for an audit that had my whole department on edge, was boarding in less than an hour, and the traffic on the Grand Central Parkway was a cruel joke. My husband, Marcus Thorne, was already gone. He had left before 5, supposedly. A long weekend fishing trip with friends, a chance to disconnect before the cold weather set in. I remembered the kiss he gave me in the pre-dawn darkness, his lips smelling faintly of coffee and the expensive moisturizer I bought him. "Go save the world, Eliza," he'd murmured. "I'll just be catching trout." I finally hit the automated toll plaza, fumbling in my briefcase for the EZ pass. My hand brushed against my laptop, my binders, my noise-canceling headphones, but not the familiar worn leather of my wallet. I checked the glove compartment, the passenger seat, the cup holder. Nothing. My stomach clenched. Not just annoyance. Cold, professional panic. My driver's license was in that wallet, but more importantly, my Viridian Dynamics security fob was in that wallet. The key fob, the one single item, besides my own fingerprint, that could get me into the secure data rooms in Chicago. Without it, the trip was pointless. I would be a laughingstock. I hit the steering wheel, a single, hard strike. The frustration was so sharp it tasted like acid. I had no choice. I had to go back. I swung the car into the emergency vehicle-only U-turn, flashing my hazards, my mind already calculating the lost time. The obsequious apology I'd have to make to the Chicago team. I sped back to our home in New Rochelle, the suburban quiet of the tree-lined streets mocking my internal chaos. I turned onto our driveway, my foot already on the brake, my mind on the front door, when I saw it, and my heart did not just sink. It stopped. It was Marcus's gray Range Rover. It was parked, but not in its usual spot. It was tucked behind the detached garage, hidden from the street, in a spot no one ever used unless they were trying to hide. He was not fishing. The first thought, the immediate visceral assumption, was the oldest one in the book. He was home, with someone. The fishing trip, the early start, it was all a lie. A wave of nausea, so profound it made my vision swim, washed over me. The forgotten wallet, the missed flight, it all faded. This was a new, sharper kind of crisis. I did not park in the driveway. I pulled onto the grass, silent, my tires sinking into the damp lawn. I got out, my keys already in my hand, not for the front door, but for the side door, the one that led through the mudroom, the one that did not creak. I slipped inside. The house was quiet, but it was the wrong kind of quiet. It felt staged. I could smell the faint aroma of the expensive coffee beans Marcus loved. He was here. I moved down the hall, my stocking feet whispering on the hardwood floors. I had expected to hear something. Laughter, music, the sounds of a cheap betrayal. Instead, I heard only his voice, muffled, coming from his study. He was on a video call. I crept closer, pressing my ear against the heavy oak door. His voice was clear, confident. Not the voice of a man caught in a tryst, but the voice of a man closing a deal. The best part is her naivete. "Chloe," he was saying, followed by a low chuckle. A woman's voice, tinny through the laptop speakers, laughed with him. My breath caught in my throat. I did not move. I did not breathe. I just listened. She is so buried in her binders and her rules, she never even thought to check her own administrator access, Marcus said. The pride in his voice was sickening. The transfer to Belize is queued up. Belize. My blood went cold. And the signature, the woman, Chloe, asked. Perfect. A perfect forged signature. She will get the alert, of course, but she'll be in Chicago, thinking it's just a standard verification. My mind was spinning. Chicago. He knew my schedule. He planned this around my audit. Then he said the words that shattered the world. By the time she gets back from Chicago, it will all be gone. Leo's trust will be empty. And the kid... Well, the kid will be a ward of the state. She'll be so busy fighting for custody of a drooling invalid, she won't have time to notice I'm gone. Leo, my brother, my 25-year-old brother, Leo, who lives in a world of his own, a world I have spent my entire adult life protecting. Leo, who is cognitively disabled and lives at a private care facility, an expensive facility, the best, one that keeps him safe and calm, a facility paid for, in full, by the trust our parents left behind, a trust that I managed, a trust that, after we got married, I had been convinced to add Marcus to as a co-manager. For emergencies, he'd said. In case anything ever happens to you, he'd said. I leaned against the wall, the plaster cold against my cheek. The world was tilting, the hallway narrowing to a pinpoint. This was not an affair. This was not a simple, grubby theft. This was an eradication. He was not just stealing our money. He was stealing my brother's life. He was planning to leave Leo, helpless, to the mercy of the state system, a system that would crush him, and he was laughing about it. I did not scream. I did not run in and smash the laptop. The part of me that would have done that, the 38-year-old wife named Eliza Vance, died in the hallway. The thing that was left, the thing that was listening to the hum of the refrigerator, simply turned around. I retraced my steps, a phantom in my own home. My stocking feet made no sound on the hardwood. I slipped through the mudroom door, closing it so softly the latch did not even click. I got back into my car, the engine turning over with a roar that felt obscenely loud in the quiet street. I backed out of the driveway, off the grass, and drove. I did not go toward the airport. I drove north, away from the city, away from my life. I drove for 40 minutes, crossing county lines, until I was 3 towns over, in a part of the state I never visited. I found a motel, the kind with a flickering neon sign and rooms that opened directly onto the parking lot. The sign said Starlight Inn. The S was burned out. I paid for 2 nights, in cash. The man behind the bulletproof glass barely looked at me. The room smelled of stale cigarettes and bleach. I locked the deadbolt in the chain. I sat on the edge of the stiff polyester comforter and, for 1 full minute, I did nothing. I just stared at the particle board wall. Then, I took out my company phone. My first call was not to the police. It was to my boss. It rang twice. Eliza, I thought you'd be in the air by now. My voice, when it came out, was a stranger's. It was hollow, cracked, and perfectly convincing. Mark, I whispered. Mark, something terrible has happened. What is it? Are you okay? I manufactured a sob. It was not difficult. It's Leo, my brother. God, he had a medical incident, a serious one. I'm at the emergency room right now. I'm at the hospital. I heard the shift in his tone, from boss to concerned colleague. Oh, Eliza, I'm so sorry. Is he going to be all right? I don't know, I whispered. I don't know anything, but I can't. I can't go to Chicago. I'm a mess. I need to be here. I'm going to have to take emergency leave. Maybe a week. I am so sorry. No, don't you dare apologize, Mark said, his voice firm. You take all the time you need. Family first, always. Keep me updated, but only when you can. Thank you. Mark, thank you. I ended the call. The first lie was in place. The perfect ironclad alibi. Marcus thought I was in Chicago, stuck in an audit. My company thought I was at a hospital, paralyzed by grief. I was in neither. I was in a void. I powered down my work phone and my personal phone. I removed the SIM cards. I put them in the bottom of my briefcase. Then, I left the motel. I walked to a 24-hour convenience store 2 blocks away. I bought a cheap, prepaid burner phone and a pack of legal pads. I paid in cash. Back in the room, I sat on the floor, the legal pad on the stained carpet, and I wrote. I wrote down every word I had heard. Chloe, Belize, perfect forged signature, Leo's trust, and the final damning phrase, ward of the state. The panic from the hallway, the nausea from the car. It was all gone now, burned away by a cold, adrenaline-fueled clarity. I saw the whole picture. I saw it with the terrifying precision of a compliance officer looking at a fraudulent ledger. This was not a man running off with a mistress. This was not a desperate husband stealing from the family accounts. This was premeditated. This was annihilation. He was not just targeting the money. The money was the weapon. He was targeting Leo. He knew my brother was my entire world, the only family I had left. He knew that draining the trust would mean Leo would be ejected from the only safe home he had ever known. And he knew that the legal and financial burden would fall entirely on me, a burden so complete it would crush me. He was not just planning to leave me. He was planning to destroy me, to leave me bankrupt, emotionally shattered, and legally tethered to a tragedy, all while he disappeared with millions. I realized this plan. This thing had been in motion for months, maybe years. His every kiss, every I love you, every shared dinner was a lie. He had been performing a role, and I, the naive Eliza, had been his rapt audience. The woman in the hallway was dead. The thing holding the pen in the motel room was something new. I looked at the burner phone, still in its plastic packaging. I tore it open, inserted the battery, and powered it on. The screen glow. It was a new life, a new identity. I had one purpose. My first call was to the only person in the world I trusted implicitly, the only person who would understand that what I needed was not a shoulder to cry on, but a weapon. I dialed. It was a number I knew better than my own. Nolan. Her voice was sharp, professional, even at what must have been the end of a long shift. Kira, I said. My voice was sandpaper. The line was silent for a beat. The cop evaporated, and my friend was there. Eliza. What's wrong? Where are you? You sound bad. I need you. Not as a cop. Not yet. I need you, I said. Where? The Olympus Diner. Off the hutch. In 45 minutes. That place closed years ago. Eli. The new one. The 24-hour one in Yonkers that stole its name. I'll be in the back booth. I hung up. I drove to the diner, a painfully bright oasis of chrome and formica in the suburban darkness. It was almost 2 a.m. The only other customers were a couple of truckers at the counter and a lone student hunched over a laptop. Kira Nolan slid into the booth 10 minutes later, still in her work clothes, a rumpled blazer, jeans, and a Glock holstered on her hip. Her eyes, sharp and accustomed to seeing the worst in people, scanned my face. My God, Eliza, you look like you've seen a ghost. What is this? Is Marcus okay? Is Leo? Marcus is... I started, and my voice broke. Marcus is fine. He hit you, she asked, her voice dropping, all friendship gone, replaced by the ice of an NYPD detective. You tell me right now, Eliza, did he hit you? No, I said. He didn't hit me. I took a breath, the smell of old coffee and grease filling my lungs. He's robbing me, Kira. He's robbing Leo. I watched her process the words. She had been expecting a domestic dispute, a black eye, a sordid affair. What do you mean, robbing? I mean, he's liquidating Leo's trust fund. All of it. Her entire demeanor changed. This was her language. Trust funds. Liquidation. This was her world. How much? Everything. $4.2 million. She let out a low whistle. Okay. So you call the bank. You freeze the accounts. You call a divorce lawyer, and you let me go pick him up. No, I said, leaning forward. The urgency in my voice made her pause. I can't. You can't. He'll know. He'll see the freeze, and he'll be on a plane before your patrol car hits the driveway. He has a plan to disappear. Kira. I heard it. He thinks I'm in Chicago. He thinks Leo is in the hospital. I am off the grid for the next week. We have a window, and it's the only one we'll get. I don't want to stop him. I want to catch him. Kira stared at me, her cop's mind working. You want to let the crime happen. You want to catch him in the act. Eliza, that is insane. And it is a very, very bad idea. It's the only idea, I said. He's not working alone. I heard him on a call. A woman named Chloe. Kira pulled her work laptop from her bag, the one that probably violated a dozen departmental regulations to have out of the precinct. Spell it, she typed. We sat in silence while the server refilled my coffee. Kira just stared at the screen, her brow furrowed. Well, she said finally, your husband has a type, and it's not mistress. She turned the laptop around. Chloe Rivers, used to be a managing director at a private wealth firm. Disbarred 3 years ago. Lost her license for creative asset management. She's a specialist. Eli. She's a professional asset washer. She makes dirty money clean, and she makes clean money disappear for clients who want to dodge the IRS, or in this case, a wife. The sickness rose in my throat again. This was not a moment of weakness. This was a conspiracy. It's worse, Kira said, her eyes fixed on the screen. She was typing again, fast. You said his name is Marcus Thorne. Did he ever tell you where he was born? He always said it was complicated, his parents. He said they were estranged. Why? Because Marcus Thorne didn't exist 11 years ago. Kira's voice was flat. I'm running his name. The social security number he used on your marriage license is clean, but the date of issue is odd. It's too new. But I'm running a deeper search. Facial recognition against known associates. Cross-referencing. The screen flashed. Kira leaned in. Got him. He wasn't Marcus Thorne. 10 years ago, his name was different. He legally changed it. And before that, he had a sealed juvenile record, and one. Oh, shit. One adult conviction, sealed after a plea deal, from another state. She looked at me, her face pale in the fluorescent light. He defrauded a widow. Eli, a woman in her 70s. He was her financial advisor after her husband died. He emptied her accounts over 2 years. He got off with a plea, did 18 months, and got the record sealed by rolling on his boss. Then he changed his name, moved to New York, and he met you. I did not marry a thief. I married a parasite, a professional predator who hunts the vulnerable. First, a grieving widow, and now, a woman he thought was distracted by her disabled brother. The coffee in my cup was cold. I pushed it away. Okay, I said. My voice was clear. The shock was gone, replaced by a crystalline, Arctic rage. He's a professional. So am I. Kira looked at me. Eliza, this is not a compliance audit. This is a federal felony. You need to be the victim here, not the investigating officer. The victim gets a bankrupted trust and a brother in a state facility, I said. The investigating officer gets him cuffed. You're NYPD financial crimes. He's committing financial crimes. What I can do off the books is limited. Eli, Kira warned. I can run searches. I can pull strings. But I cannot get a warrant based on something you overheard. I don't need a warrant, I said. I'm his wife. I'm also the co-administrator of the trust he's robbing. I have access, my compliance skills, your legal infrastructure. We build the case. We trap him. We get him for everything. Kira was quiet for a long moment. She finally snapped her laptop shut. Fine, she said. We're a war room, but first things first. We need to know how fast that money is moving. We need to know our timeline. If that transfer to Belize is already in the air, we're too late. It's not, I said. I know the bank he uses, and I know their protocols. He set it to clear after I was supposed to be in Chicago. I pulled her laptop back toward me. Now, let's find out exactly what I'm co-administrator of. We did not go back inside. The diner was too exposed. My laptop is secure, Kira said, but that diner's Wi-Fi is a joke. We'll use my mobile hotspot. In the car. We moved to her unmarked car, a standard-issue sedan that smelled of stale air freshener and steel. We sat in the dark, the dashboard lights casting a green glow on our faces. I took her laptop. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a cold, vibrating rage. I typed in the URL for the trust's private banking portal. My fingers flew across the key's username, password, two-factor authentication. I was in. It was right there, on the main dashboard. I did not have to look for it. A large red icon. Pending Transaction International. Kira leaned in. There it is, she whispered. I clicked. The details filled the screen. Recipient a shell corporation in Belize. Amount $4,200,000. Status pending. Scheduled for execution in exactly 48 hours. He had timed it perfectly. He'd be on his fishing trip when the money left. I'd be in Chicago. By the time I landed, the money would be gone. By the time I noticed, he would be gone. Can you stop it? Kira asked. There has to be a cancel button. Of course there is, I said. And the moment I click it, his phone gets an alert. Transaction canceled by co-administrator E. Vance. He'll know I'm not in Chicago. He'll know I'm not at the hospital. He'll grab his passport and run before we can even get a patrol car to the house. We can't cancel. So what do we do? My eyes scanned the page. As a compliance officer, I live in the attachments, the addenda, the fine print. I saw the link, View Supporting Documents. I clicked it. 2 files appeared. The first was a letter of authorization, addressed to the bank, formally requesting the full liquidation and transfer of the trust's assets. It was short, professional, and at the bottom, there were 2 digital signatures, Marcus Thorne and Eliza Vance. He forged my signature, I whispered, though it was not a surprise. I heard him say it. But seeing it a perfect, clean replica of my electronic signature, the one I used to sign off on billion-dollar audits, it was flawless. That's enough for a warrant, Kira said, her voice hard. No, I said, my throat tightening. Look at the second file. I clicked it. It was a PDF. A medical competency evaluation for Leo Vance. It was 3 pages long, on the letterhead of a medical group I had never heard of, signed by a doctor who did not exist. It was a complete, clinical, and utterly fraudulent document. It declared, in stark medical terms, that Leo had made a full and miraculous cognitive recovery and was no longer in need of supervised care or financial guardianship. The blood drained from my face. This was not just a forgery. This was an act of profound, unimaginable cruelty. To justify liquidating the trust, he had legally erased my brother's disability. He had declared him cured on paper, a mocking, evil lie that would serve as the legal justification for the theft. This was the document that would throw Leo out of his home. That son of a bitch, Kira breathed. That's evil. Eli. I closed the file. The rage was so cold, so pure. It was almost paralyzing. But as I stared at the transfer screen, my work brain took over. The part of me that hunts for fraud for a living, the part that Marcus had dismissed as naive, it finally saw the flaw. He made a mistake, a huge one. He's an amateur, I said, my voice quiet. What? Kira looked at me. Eliza, this is as professional as it gets. No, I said, turning to her. He's a predator, but he's a stupid criminal. He doesn't understand the system he's trying to rob. I do. I pointed to the screen. Belize. A $4.2 million transfer from a private trust to a brand new shell corporation in a high-risk, non-extradition country. What does that sound like to you? Kira's eyes widened. Money laundering. Exactly. Any wire transfer over $10,000 gets flagged. A multi-million-dollar transfer to a country on the Financial Action Task Force's gray list. It doesn't just trigger a flag. Kira, it sets off a siren. It automatically triggers an AML review, an anti-money laundering protocol. So the bank will stop it. No, I said. Marcus knows this. He's expecting the flag. He's counting on the bank's compliance department to call the administrators, but he thinks I'm in Chicago, unavailable, and then he'll get the call, posing as the concerned husband, and push it through. He's relying on me to be the grieving, distracted victim. He's not prepared for me to be the auditor. I had a weapon only I could have, my knowledge. We can't cancel the transfer, I said, my mind racing, because that notifies him. But we don't have to. I opened a new, secure browser tab. I can't call the bank as Eliza Vance, but anyone can anonymously file a suspicious activity report, a SAR. I can file a SAR against my own bank, against my own transaction. You're going to report yourself. I'm going to report a transaction that I know is fraudulent. I'll cite the forged medical documents, the shell company, the high-risk nation. I will draft a report so perfect, so detailed, that the bank's legal department will have no choice. They will be legally obligated to freeze the transaction for a special administrative review. And the best part, the Patriot Act. They are legally prohibited from informing the sender why the transaction is frozen. They can't tell Marcus it's a SAR. They can't tell him anything. Kira was smiling, a cold, hard smile. So what does he see? He'll see pending. He'll see under review. He'll see processing delay. He'll call, and they'll tell him it's a standard procedural hold. The money will be locked in limbo for 5 to 7 business days. He'll be trapped, and he won't even know it. I started typing in the anonymous portal address for the banking ombudsman. He wanted to destroy my brother's life with paperwork, I said. He's about to find out what a real compliance officer can do with it. We could not risk Kira's car. The hotspot was good, but it still traced back to her. We drove from the diner to a public library in a different town, one that opened early. We waited in the parking lot until the doors opened at 8 a.m. I walked past the few early morning patrons and sat at a public computer terminal, the kind with a sticky keyboard and a monitor that hummed. Kira stood watch, pretending to browse the periodicals. I created a temporary encrypted email address. Then I went to the FinCEN portal, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. I was not Eliza Vance, the grieving wife. I was not Eliza Vance, the frantic sister. I was a compliance officer, and I was filing a report. My fingers, which had been trembling, were now rock steady. I drafted the suspicious activity report with a clarity that was almost surgical. I cited the specific sections of the Bank Secrecy Act that applied. I referenced the known risks of shell corporations registered in Belize. I detailed the impossible medical competency document, flagging it as a clear indicator of predicate fraud, specifically designed to deceive the institution. I wrote it not as a victim, but as a fellow compliance professional, an anonymous insider tipping them off to a massive internal failure. I hit submit. The report was gone, fired into the very heart of the banking bureaucracy I knew so well. It would land on the desk of someone just like me. They would read it, their blood would run cold, and they would lock that transaction down, not out of suspicion, but out of their own legal necessity. The money was frozen. It was trapped in a bureaucratic cage, and Marcus would not be able to see the bars. He would just see pending, a word that would drive him insane over the next few days. We walked out of the library into the bright morning light, Kira and I, 2 women running on fumes and fury. Done, I said. He's neutralized. For now. So what's next? Kira asked, putting on her sunglasses. He's not working alone. This Chloe Rivers. She's the key. She's the one who knows the architecture of his plan. We need to find her weakness. I'm on it, Kira said, getting into her car. I'll run a full background. Credit, debts, known associates. If she's got a vulnerability, I'll find it. Go back to your motel. Get some sleep. You're no good to me exhausted. Sleep was impossible, but I did as she said. I went back to the room, locked the door, and stared at the ceiling. An hour later, the burner phone buzzed. It was a text. From Marcus. My heart hammered against my ribs. I picked it up. Marcus. Just landed from the fishing trip. Friends had a family emergency. Heard you were at the hospital. What's going on? I'm worried sick. He was setting his alibi, pretending to cut his trip short. The perfect concerned husband. I let him wait for 20 minutes. Then I typed back. Me, Leo. Bad. Don't know what to do. Marcus. Oh my God. I'm coming to you. Which hospital, me? No. Don't. Too much. Need you to just be normal. I'm so confused. Don't know what's happening. Marcus. Are you sure I can cancel everything? I'll be there in an hour. Me. Please. Just let me handle this. I'll call you. Just pray for him. Marcus. Okay. Okay. Baby. Whatever you need. I'm here. I love you so much. I threw the phone against the wall. I love you. The words were a physical assault. He was playing his part to perfection, and I was playing mine right back. The burner phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from Kira. You're not going to believe this, she said. Her voice was thin. You found Chloe. I found her, and I found her trigger. She's got a debt, a big one. $200,000 in markers to a casino in Atlantic City. A very unfriendly casino. They're not going to break her legs. They're going to bury her. She's not just a partner. Eli, she's desperate. She's a cornered animal. This changed everything. A loyal partner was a fortress. A desperate, indebted accomplice was a door waiting to be kicked in. Good, I said. This is how we break them apart. I'm not going to confront Marcus. I'm going to flip Chloe. Slow down, Kira said, but her voice was excited. You can't just walk up to her. She's a pro. She's a desperate amateur, I corrected. Just like him. But Kira, that's not what you're really calling about. Is it your voice? It's something else. The line was silent. Kira, what did you find? When you were in the library, Kira said slowly, I did something I shouldn't have. I used your alibi, the one about Leo, to get a friend in the cyber division to do me a favor. I asked him to run a security check on your home network and your work accounts, to see if Marcus had planted any spyware. I just got the report. I sat up straight. And he didn't plant spyware, Eliza. He didn't have to. My blood went cold. What do you mean? He logged in? He used your credentials, your Viridian Dynamics login, your password, your security phrases. He had them all. He accessed my work servers. He did more than access them. Eli. Kira's voice was grim. He downloaded data, proprietary data, clinical trial results, Phase 3, patient data sheets, highly confidential, proprietary information. He didn't just access your servers. He committed industrial espionage, using your name. I fell back onto the stiff comforter, the room spinning. This was the ward of the state plan. But for me, it was not enough to steal my money. It was not enough to destroy my brother. He was going to frame me. He was going to send me to federal prison. He was not just robbing my family. He was salting the earth of my entire life. I could not approach Chloe Rivers as Eliza Vance. Eliza Vance was a victim, grieving in a hospital corridor. Eliza Vance was a mess. The woman who was going to walk into that meeting had to be anything but. She won't meet with a cop, and she won't meet with a stranger. I told Kira over the burner phone. She's a professional. She'll run. So we don't give her a choice, Kira said. I've been digging into her Atlantic City problem. The casino she owes is a front. The real creditor is unpleasant. They don't send letters. They send people. She'll be expecting a call from someone who makes her very, very nervous. Kira worked her magic. She created a legend. I was not Eliza. I was Ms. Gray, a risk mitigation consultant representing the private interests of Chloe's creditor. I was not there to collect the $200,000. I was there to assess the liability that Chloe now represented to their portfolio. Kira sent Chloe an encrypted message from a spoofed number. The message was simple. Your debt has been flagged for review. You are meeting with our consultant, the St. Regis, King Cole Bar. Tomorrow, noon. Be there. There was no please. There was no option to decline. The next morning, I left the motel. I went to a high-end consignment shop and used my personal credit card, a charge Marcus would not see for days, to buy a new uniform. It was an Armani power suit, graphite gray, sharp as a razor. I had my hair pulled back into a severe, polished knot. When I looked in the mirror, Eliza was gone. I was Ms. Gray. I was a weapon. The King Cole Bar was old money and dark wood. It was quiet, a place where billion-dollar deals were whispered over $70 cocktails. I chose a table in the corner, one with a clear view of the door, my back to the wall. I ordered a sparkling water with a lime. I did not touch it. Chloe Rivers walked in at 12:03. She was trying to project confidence, wearing a bright red dress and expensive shoes, but her hands were trembling. Her eyes darted around the room, finally landing on me. She had been expecting a man, probably a thug in a bad suit. She was not expecting me, and that gave me the first advantage. She slid into the booth, her smile brittle. Ms. Gray. I'm Chloe Rivers. I think there's been a misunderstanding about my account. I have a payment plan I'd like to propose. I did not smile back. I let her finish, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. I pushed a thin, black document folder across the polished wood table. This is not about your debt, I said. My voice was low, cold, and utterly flat. She looked at the folder, then at me. Her bravado wavered. Then, what is this about? This is about your poor choice in business partners. She opened the folder. The first page was a printout from the banking portal. The $4.2 million transfer to Belize. Her eyes widened. She snapped the folder shut. I don't know what that is, she said, her voice a little too high. That's privileged client information. My employers aren't interested in your client, I said, leaning in. They are interested in why you, a woman who owes them a significant amount of money, are partnering with a known professional con man. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a second document, sliding it over. That's the first file. This is the addendum. She looked at it. It was Marcus's real file, not Marcus Thorne, but his original name, the sealed plea deal, the mugshot from 10 years ago, the details of the widow he had defrauded. Chloe stared at it, her face draining of all color. He lied to me, she whispered, half to herself. He said you were the one with the money. He said a lot of things, I said. He's a predator, Chloe, and my employers. They hate predators. It's bad for business. They are very concerned that their asset U is now tied to a high-risk flight risk with a sealed felony record. It makes you a liability. I can cut him off. She stammered, her hands gripping the folder. I'll reverse the transfer. I'll give you his information. Whatever you want. It's too late for that, I said. I let that hang in the air. He's already made his final move. He's a professional. He knows that the only way to ensure silence is, well, to ensure silence. What does that mean? I reached into my briefcase one last time. I pulled out a single sheet of paper and laid it on the table between us. It means this, I said. It was a life insurance policy, a new one, taken out just 3 days ago, for $1 million. Chloe leaned in, her eyes scanning the page. She saw the policyholder Marcus Thorne. She saw the insured life Chloe Rivers. And then she saw the beneficiary, Marcus Thorne. The blood did not just drain from her face. She went a pale, mottled gray, the color of a corpse. The glass of water in her hand slipped, shattering on the floor. She did not even flinch. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with a pure, primal terror that went beyond debt, beyond prison. "He's going to... Oh my God," she choked out. "After the money clears, he's going to kill me." "He's not going to pay you, Chloe," I said, my voice soft, almost sympathetic. "He's going to bury you. You're the loose end, the only person who can tie him to the theft." She was hyperventilating, her carefully constructed world collapsing in on her. She was not a partner. She was not an accomplice. She was the next victim. "What do I do?" she whispered, all the fight gone. "What do I do?" I leaned back, picking up my untouched water. "Now, Chloe," I said. "We can talk about a payment plan." Chloe broke. It was not a gradual crack. It was a total disintegration. The red dress, the expensive shoes, the professional facade, it all melted away, leaving a terrified, cornered woman. The shattered glass on the floor was a perfect metaphor for her life. "You don't understand," she stammered, tears carving black tracks of mascara down her pale cheeks. "You think this is about the money? It's not just the money." "Then tell me what it's about," I said, my voice unyielding. "My employers need a clear picture of their liability." "The Belize transfer," she said, her voice dropping to a frantic whisper. "That's just phase 1. That's just to break her." I kept my face a mask of stone. "Break who?" "His wife Eliza. He said she was this fragile, naive woman. He said the money was just sitting there, and that when the money for her brother was gone, she would completely fall apart. He called it priming the target." My heart felt like a block of ice, but my voice remained steady. "Go on." "Phase 2, Chloe whispered, leaning so far across the table I could smell the gin on her breath. That's the real plan. That's what I was for. Not just the money, the data." I knew what she was going to say, but I needed to hear it from her. "What data?" "From the pharmaceutical company she works for, Viridian Dynamics. He used her logins. He stole clinical trial data, terabytes of it. He's been sitting on it, waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For her to be ruined," Chloe said, the words tumbling out. His whole plan, was to make her look desperate. Once the trust was empty, once she was financially and emotionally destroyed by losing her brother's care, he was going to activate phase 2. He's going to sell that data to one of Viridian's competitors. She was sobbing now, a raw, ugly sound in the sophisticated bar. "But he's not just selling it. He created a trail, a fake digital evidence trail. He manufactured emails, transfer logs, all of it. It all points to her. It looks like she's the one who stole the data, trying to sell it to cover the massive personal losses from her mismanaged family trust. He's going to ruin her. He said, by the time I'm done, she'll have nothing. No family, no money, no career, and she'll be taking my calls from a federal prison. He was going to bury me alive. He was going to put me in a concrete box and walk away, laughing, with my brother's money and my entire future. I took a slow, steady breath. The woman in the Armani suit, Ms. Gray, looked at the weeping woman across from her. "He's thorough," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "And you are his accomplice to all of it. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, industrial espionage, securities fraud. You're looking at 20 years, easily. My employers. They'd just be the start of your problems. The feds will be next." I didn't know," she lied, weakly. "You knew enough, and you helped." I leaned forward, the final move in the chess game. "Or you can save yourself." Chloe looked up, her eyes wide, desperate. How? My employer's interests are simple. They want their liability. You, cleaned up. They don't care about Marcus, but I know someone who does. Someone in the NYPD. This was the offer. This was the flip. You give me everything, I said. Every account number, every password, every part of Phase 2. You help us catch him. In the act, you become the state's cooperating witness. You testify. You hand us Marcus Thorne on a platter. And what do I get? She whispered. Kira, my associate, will ensure you get full immunity. You walk away. No prison. No feds. And as for your debt, I gestured to the folder. My employers will consider it paid in full for your cooperation. She did not hesitate. There was no loyalty. There was only survival. Yes, she said. God, yes, anything. I'll tell you everything. He has another account, a secret one, a seed money account in Switzerland, under a different name. That's where he keeps his real money, his running money. He was going to use it to pay me. Before he decided to put her face on a life insurance policy. Good, I said, pulling my phone out. Give me the numbers. She recited them, her voice trembling, as I typed them into a secure note. Then she paused, looking at me with a strange, dawning horror, as if one last piece of the puzzle had just clicked into place. You know, she said, her voice hollow, this whole thing, it wasn't spontaneous. He planned it for years. My fingers stopped typing. What do you mean? He told me once. He said he found her. He researched families with private, poorly managed trusts. He found her name. He found out about her brother. He went to a compliance conference in Philadelphia 3 years ago, before they were even married, just to accidentally bump into her in the lobby. He said it was the easiest mark of his life, the whole marriage. It was a setup. From the very first hello, a cold black void opened up in my chest. Our life, our home, the man I had loved. It was all a script, a long, meticulous, cold-blooded con. I finished typing. I locked the phone. The heartbreak was a physical thing, a cold stone in my gut. But the face I showed Chloe was made of ice. I stood up, pulling my briefcase. Good, I said, my voice final. That's everything. Now, you're going to call him. We did not go back to the motel. I took Chloe to a temporary safe house Kira used, a sterile, anonymous apartment in a Queens high-rise. The mask of Ms. Gray was gone. The moment we were inside, I turned to Chloe, who was visibly shaking. My name is Eliza Vance, I said. I am his wife. If she had any color left, it drained. The realization of who she had been sitting across from hit her like a physical blow. Kira, I said, is NYPD. You are now a cooperating witness. You are going to make a phone call. You are going to be terrified, panicked, and on the verge of hysteria. I imagine that will not be difficult. Kira, Allcop took over. You don't just sound scared. Chloe, you are scared. You breathe high, in your throat. You talk too fast. You stumble. The world is ending, and you are calling him because he's the only one who can fix it. You understand. He'll know, Chloe whispered. He'll know I'm faking. No, he won't, I said, my voice flat. Because you'll be telling the truth. The bank is reviewing the transaction. The money is frozen. I coached her on the exact terminology. You must use these words, I insisted. Compliance flag, AML review, frozen. We put the burner phone on the table, on speaker. Kira had a recorder running. Chloe dialed. Her hand was trembling so badly she missed the last digit twice. He answered on the third ring. What? Marcus, she shrieked, a perfect performance of raw panic. Oh my God, Marcus, the bank. The bank just called. What? Slow down. What are you talking about? His voice was annoyed, not concerned. The Belize transfer. It's flagged. They stopped it. The man said it's frozen for an AML review. He said, compliance. Marcus, they know. They know what are we going to do. There was a long, cold silence on his end, followed by a vicious string of curses, low and sharp. He was not panicked. He was furious. Damn it, he hissed. A procedural hold. I was afraid of this. Some idiot drone in the compliance department. It's too hot. That money is burned. What do you mean burned? Chloe cried, the tears sounding horrifyingly real. Are they calling the police? Shut up, he snapped. Stop crying. It's fine. It just means we move to Plan B. Plan B. Yes, Plan B. You idiot. The offshore account was just for speed. The domestic one is cleaner. I set up the Delaware Corporation last week. Didn't I, LV Trust Services? LV, Chloe asked. Leo Vance. A little joke, he sneered. A hot, violent rage pulsed in my throat, but I stayed silent. I'm initiating the domestic liquidation now, he continued. All business. The brokerage accounts, the mutual funds, it's all clean. I want you to monitor the transfers. It all goes into the new Delaware account. Eliza is still at the hospital, completely out of it. She won't be looking at a thing. She's too busy crying over the invalid. Just get it done. Okay, Chloe sniffled. Okay, Marcus. And pull yourself together. He hung up. Chloe let out a shuddering sob. Kira hit stop on the recorder. He's moving on shore, Kira said, looking at me. That's good for us. Domestic wire fraud. It's in our jurisdiction. It's perfect, I said. I was already on Kira's laptop, logging back into the trust portal. The Belize money. That was gone. I was never getting it back. But this is a trap. He's walking right into it. We sat in silence. 30 minutes later, the first email alerts pinged my encrypted inbox. New transfer request. New liquidation request. I clicked. There they were. A series of requests, initiated by Marcus Thorne, co-administrator, to liquidate every security in the trust and transfer the cash balance to a new corporate account. Kira watched over my shoulder. There it is. He's doing it. He's emptying the accounts. Yes, I said. My hand was steady on the mouse. I moved the cursor. I clicked. Approve. A second request appeared. Approve. Eliza. Kira grabbed my arm, her voice frantic. What in God's name are you doing? You're letting him take it. You're approving the theft. She looked at me, her eyes wide with panic, as if I had finally cracked under the strain. I looked back at her, my gaze cold and hard as steel. I am giving him, I said quietly, enough rope to hang himself. That's a saying. Eliza, that's not a legal strategy. You are watching Leo's future disappear. It's not a crime until the transfer is complete, I said. The words were automatic, a line from a compliance seminar. He needs to commit the act. We need him to complete the transaction. We need the money to move. We need an undeniable domestic wire fraud. By approving it, I am creating a clean, documented, and irrefutable chain of evidence. I am the bait, and I am the trap. But the money, Eli, it's not enough, I said. I opened a new browser tab, my personal savings account, my rainy day fund, my bonuses from Veridian, a private account he never knew existed. It contained over $300,000. Kira watched, confused. What? What is that? My money. I initiated a transfer. Not out, but in. I moved my entire life savings into the joint brokerage account that Marcus was, at that very second, liquidating. Kira's jaw dropped. You're adding to it. You're giving him your own money. He thinks he's stealing $4.2 million, I said, my fingers flying. He's about to steal $4.5 million. He thinks this is a simple, messy divorce theft. He has no idea he's now committing aggravated wire fraud. He's crossing the threshold for federal bank fraud, involving multiple institutions and a sum that will get the attention of the U.S. Attorney's office, not just the NYPD. I clicked confirm transfer. The money was gone. I'm not just giving him rope. Kira, I said, closing the laptop. I'm upgrading the charge. It was time. The money had finished moving. I watched the final transfer confirm, a $4.5 million hole in my life. The rope was set. The trap was baited. All that was left was to bring the animal home, from the sterile quiet of Kira's safe house. I picked up my burner phone. My hands were cold. I texted Marcus on my real phone, the one he thought was my only lifeline. Me. I'm coming home. Leo, he's stable. The doctors are just observing. I'm exhausted. I can't be at the hospital anymore. His reply was almost instantaneous. Marcus, thank God. I've been so worried. Just come home. I'll take care of you. I put on the clothes I'd been wearing for 2 days. I looked in the mirror. The woman in the Armani suit was gone. I was Eliza Vance, the exhausted, grieving wife. My hair was a mess. My eyes were red-rimmed and hollow. I did not need to act that part. The grief was real, just not for the reason he thought. I drove home, back to New Rochelle, back to the house where my life had ended. Every mile was a new kind of torture. Walking up the driveway was like walking through wet cement. I used my key. The sound of the lock turning felt impossibly loud. He was there, in the foyer. He rushed to me, his face a perfect mask of concerned, loving relief. He did not hug me. He enveloped me, pulling me in, his chin resting on my head. "Oh, baby," he whispered, his voice thick with feigned emotion. "You look exhausted. You're home. That's all that matters. I'll take care of you." I let myself be led. I let my weight fall on him, playing the part of the broken woman. This was the hardest scene of my life. I had to stand in the arms of the man who, just hours before, had been laughing about destroying my brother, and I had to act like he was my savior. "I made dinner," he said softly, guiding me to the kitchen. "Just some soup." And I opened that good Cabernet. "You need to sit. You need to eat." The kitchen table was set. He had lit candles. The entire scene was a grotesque parody of marital care. He poured me a glass of wine, his hand brushing mine. "Tell me," he said, his voice gentle. "How is he? How is Leo?" "Really?" I looked down at my hands. I manufactured the tears. He just stopped." I lied, the words tasting like ash. "They don't know why. He's stable, but he's not there. Marcus, he's just gone." I let my voice crack. I watched him. He was listening intently, his eyes full of pity. He was calculating. He was assessing. He was checking to see if his plan had worked, if Phase 1 was a success. "Eliza, baby," he said, reaching across the table to cover my hand with his. "We will get through this. You will get through this. Whatever it costs. Whatever it takes." He was so smug. He thought he had done it. He thought I was broken, that the money was his, that the data was his weapon, and that I was his to dispose of. He had his stolen millions. He had his faked evidence, and he had his broken wife, all in one neat package. I looked up at him, meeting his gaze. I let a single tear roll down my cheek. "I don't know what I would do without you, Marcus," I whispered. You're my rock, my only rock." His face softened into a smile of pure, triumphant arrogance. He had won. He squeezed my hand. "I'm right here," he said. "I'll always be right here. You look like you need to rest. Let me get you some more wine." He stood up and walked to the kitchen counter to get the bottle. This was it. My hands, in my lap, were not shaking. In one swift, practiced motion, I pulled a small black USB drive from my pocket. It was not a normal drive. It was a phantom key, a gift from my IT security team at Veridian for being their favorite, most paranoid auditor. It was not a virus. It was infinitely worse. It was a high-speed file copier and a keylogger. Marcus's laptop was on the sideboard, right where he always left it. The one he had used to log into my servers. The one he had used to initiate the wire fraud. While his back was turned, while the glug-glug-glug of the wine filled the silence, I slipped the drive into the USB port. A tiny green light, invisible from 2 feet away, flickered once. The drive began to copy everything. Every keystroke, every password, every file, every deleted email, every trace of LV Trust Services and the stolen Viridian data. It was uploading his entire digital life. He turned back, the bottle in his hand. "Here we go," he said, smiling. I smiled back, my heart hammering. "Thank you, Marcus." I took the glass. As I lifted it to my lips, my burner phone, tucked deep in my pocket, vibrated once. A single, short pulse. I did not need to look. It was the signal. It was Kira. "Team is in position. Say the word." Marcus came back into the dining room, the bottle of Cabernet in his hand, his smile of feigned concern perfectly in place. He saw me standing by the fireplace and walked toward me, ready to refill the glass I held. "You need to relax, baby," he said, his voice a soft coo. "You're home. You're safe." I let him get close. I let him get close enough to see my eyes. "Marcus," I said. My voice was not the whisper of a victim. It was not the exhausted rasp of a grieving sister. It was clear, cold, and amplified by the silence in the room. "Did the Delaware transaction go through?" He froze. The bottle in his hand tilted, a drop of red wine spilling onto his cuff. His smile did not fade. It shattered. "What?" he said, the single word flat and dangerous. "Did you just say, 'The shell corporation you established this morning'?" I said, taking a small step back, giving myself space. "LV Trust Services. That was a nice touch. Was it Leo Vance, or was it Love Victims?" How brazen. His face was a canvas of shock, then realization, then a flash of pure reptilian rage. The con man was gone, replaced by the cornered predator. He dropped the bottle. It shattered on the hearth, a spray of glass and dark red liquid. He lunged at me. "You bitch," he roared, his hands clawed, reaching for my throat. I did not flinch. Too late. As if the words themselves were a trigger, the front door and the kitchen door burst open simultaneously. The sound was deafening, the crash of wood and the thunder of boots. Kira Nolan was the first one through the front, her badge on a chain around her neck, her service weapon drawn and steady. "NYPD, don't move!" she yelled. 2 of her detectives were on Marcus in a second, tackling him mid-lunge, slamming him face down onto the floor, the shards of glass and spilled wine mixing beneath him. "What the hell is this?" he screamed, his voice muffled by the carpet. "Get off me." "It's a multi-agency operation," I said, my voice calm. Marcus twisted, trying to look up. He saw Kira and his eyes widened, but he had not seen everyone. 2 other men had followed Kira through the door. They were not cops. They wore immaculate, dark suits. They were the general counsel and the head of global security for Viridian Dynamics. Marcus looked at the suits, his mind failing to compute. "Who the hell are you?" I answered for them. I walked over to the sideboard and pulled the phantom USB drive from his laptop. The green light was now solid. The download was complete. "You made one fatal mistake. Marcus," I said, holding the drive up. "You used the company laptop." The general counsel stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Marcus with a look of utter contempt. "Mr. Thorne," he began, his voice cutting through the room, "by utilizing a Viridian Dynamics corporate asset to access, download, and store proprietary clinical trial data, and then using that same asset to commit federal wire fraud, you have violated your wife's employment contract, our corporate ethics policies, and several federal statutes." "I don't work for you," Marcus spat, struggling against the detective's knee in his back. "You stole from us," the counsel roared, "and by doing so, you have triggered the RICO Act. As of 10 minutes ago, our firm filed a $50 billion civil suit against you for industrial espionage and damages. All of your assets, every account, every shell corporation, and yes, the $4.5 million you just stole are frozen, seized, and pending our investigation. You are not just being arrested for fraud, Mr. Thorne. You are being sued into the Stone Age by a corporation that has a litigation budget bigger than the GDP of a small country. We will take everything." The blood drained from Marcus's face. He was staring at a future more terrifying than prison. Kira stepped forward, pulling her handcuffs from her belt. "Marcus Thorne," she said, savoring every word. "You are under arrest for aggravated wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and identity theft. You have the right to remain silent." She yanked his hands behind his back, and the sound of the handcuffs ratcheting shut was the loudest, most beautiful sound I had ever heard. As the detectives hauled him to his feet, he twisted, his eyes finding mine. The hatred in them was raw, potent. "Eliza," he screamed, "you'll pay for this. You'll—" His words were cut off as they dragged him out the front door. I stood in the silence of my home, the smell of wine and betrayal hanging in the air. The Viridian suits nodded at me. "Ms. Vance, we will be in touch to coordinate. Your name has already been cleared." They left. Kira was the last to go. She looked at me, gave me one hard, supportive nod, and closed the door. I was alone. I stood in the wreckage for a full minute. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out my real phone. I did not call my brother's care facility. I did not call my friends. I dialed the private number for the head of the fraud department at my bank. "This is Eliza Vance," I said, my voice steady, as I looked at the dark red stain spreading across my floor. "I am the co-administrator for the Vance Family Trust, and I need to report a series of fraudulent transactions and begin the reversal process immediately. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from right now? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to connect and hear your thoughts on this. If you want more stories like this, please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories. And if you enjoyed this, please like the video and support us by hitting that hype button so this story can be heard by more people.